So we're with Marc Zander, VP Global Client Partnership de Teads. How are you, Marc?
I'm very well.
Good
morning.
Nice speech yesterday. I was filming for you. What are the key elements a creative should have in order to work in a digital world? Okay. Can you tell us some of them?
So I think the first thing is a lot of the basics are exactly the same as if you're making any other creative. It starts with a really great campaign idea. If you've got a great idea, you can deliver great executions in a mobile and in digital world. If you don't, the channel is kind of irrespective. It's around great storytelling. It's around engaging. It's around eye-catching. It's around dynamic. So, whether it is video, whether it is display, the great thing about technology is it gives you lots of opportunities to do things that really stand out and catch people's eyes. And we saw some of those examples yesterday. One of the big differences is the concept that I talked about yesterday, which is springboarding, which is the big difference between a TV ad and a video ad, is that when a TV ad finishes, you either have the next TV ad or you go to the TV program. With online video, you have an opportunity to springboard people to other bits of content. So one should make sure that in every bit of content that you do, at the end of it, if people have watched that 15 seconds, that 6 seconds, that they springboard to a call to action, to a sale, to more information, because it's a great way of capturing people, giving them more information, which they often want, and it not costing any more, which is really, really important as well. Branding is really important. The number of times that I see, and we've got to remember that on these things, the actual screen is quite a bit smaller than if you're watching on a big TV. So you've got to make sure that the branding is clear, that it comes early. And again, simple storytelling that's right for the medium. And the final thing is really thinking about the context of where consumers are going to see your adverts. So are they going to see it in a place where they're very busy or they're a bit calmer? Are they going to see it with sound? Are they going to see it without sound? More and more people are watching mobile. More and more people are watching video advertising on mobile, and more people are watching it without sound. So really thinking about how do you optimize for sound, and thinking about sound right at the start of the creative process rather than at the back end, because we found from all our testing that ads with sound off can work as well, if not better, than ads with sound. But you've got to think about it at the front end of the process.
But sometimes the creative people, they don't think about it, or they have some problems with all these technology things. No? They think more offline, no? You think
Correct. And
it's to change their mind and to adapt more to these things you are saying.
You're absolutely right. And we talked about that a little bit in the session yesterday, which was, in the old days, the way that you built a campaign was you'd have your creative, so you'd make the ad. Then you'd think about the media, where do I put it? And then you had, is there any link or a call to action? And the lines between those three circles are really blurring. And therefore, when I was the global media director at Mars, I spent a lot of time making sure that media was in every creative decision and discussion. Not to say, do I like the ad? Is the dress, should it be blue or red or whatever? But really thinking about, at the start, this is what we're trying to do. What would it look like on mobile? What would it look like without sound? What would it look like in short form content? What would it look like, etc.? Because if you think about all of that up front, rather than once you've made your piece of content, then you're not optimizing, but you're building for the platform at the start. And when you do that, you get much better and more effective advertising.
A big percentage of digital advertising creatives, they come from TV spots, no? What is holding advertisers back from investing more in digital advertising from the beginning instead of adapting TV spots?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. The first is that the reality is that TV is still a very effective way of reaching mass audiences. The thing is, and it depends very much by market, there comes a point where each incremental part of reach becomes more and more expensive. And it does so because, in very practical terms, those are audiences that are not spending as much time on TV. And those numbers are getting bigger and the opportunities are getting bigger. So we are seeing more and more money come into online video, into digital. Again, I think the critical thing is not so much about the spend, but is thinking about how do you make great content. Because one of the things I talked about yesterday was there are three things that drive media effectiveness. The first is reach, so how do I reach as many people as possible? The second is the quality of the content, because if I have great reach but poor content, I'm throwing my money away. And the third is the context in which it's being consumed. And again, I think people are often forgetting the importance of that third bit and really focusing on the context, thinking about where will they be seeing it, how will they be seeing it. Some things I talked about before in terms of sound on versus sound off, what is the size of screen, etc., etc., what is the time length that I'm going to be showing, are all really, really important.
Mark, how can a brand get the attention of the user in a short period of time? What kind of tips can you give them?
So I think the first thing I would say that I think is really important is that, I'm a passionate believer that you build brands through great storytelling. And I think it takes a certain amount of time to do that. So I don't believe you can build brands on 6 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, etc. But I do believe they have a role in reinforcing messages, focusing on specific areas, and repetition. So I think the first thing is to be really clear about what short form content can and what it can't do. The second thing is, like everything, we're finding today that people's attention spans tend to be shorter. So there's very simple things like, how do you hook people in? How do you engage them from the start? How do you ask questions? How do you create surprise? All those kind of things to make people lean in from the start, rather than if it's very bland from the start and you do the classic reveal at the end, which is how the old construct of a TV ad works. Often you will have lost consumers before you even get there. So it's really important to think about that. If we're dealing in shorter form content, we've just done at Teads a really big piece of research with 165 different short form ads with some very interesting learnings. And again, none of it is massively surprising, but the ads that performed the best were the ones that told a story, a very simple story, because you've only got 6 seconds, that was engaging, was impactful, but really in that 6 seconds you could get one message across. The ads that performed the worst were the ones that had multiple messages, multiple visuals, sound, captions, clicks, etc. And there's so much going on in a very short period of time that people didn't really know what they're looking for. So again, realizing that there are different rules of engagement for longer form content, shorter form content, display, etc. are really, really important when you're building those from the start.
Good. And how do you think can advertisers take advantage of the artificial intelligence available at the moment in the market to personalize the ads? Everybody's speaking about it in this fair, in this big event about artificial intelligence. So it's the big buzzword of this year.
Yeah.
So how can an advertiser really take something with this?
So the question was really around mass personalization, and I think the first thing to say is mass personalization often doesn't really mean true one-to-one. It's about groups, and that's why the word mass personalization is important. I think artificial intelligence provides some really interesting opportunities, and I showed an example yesterday where, again, if you bring it right to the start of the creative process, and that's really, really important, you can get to some quite interesting places. So we showed an example yesterday with PlayStation, which had the same start, the same middle, the same end, but in between those you interspersed different visuals depending on whether it was someone who likes sports games, someone who likes shooting games, someone who likes different kind of games, and therefore you're serving them a more personalized message. And where artificial intelligence could do is then take that to the next level, because it's never quite as simple as I only like sports games, but it can be Mark's like sports games, but he also likes shooting games. So the first bit is a sporting game bit, the second bit is a shooting game. And so that's where you can start to go from what used to be a very generic message to much more targeted message that engages the consumer more. And I think that's really where it becomes interesting. But to do that, you have to think about it right at the start of the creative process. And I think people are wanting to do that, but not always involving AI at the right stage of the process, and therefore not maximizing the potential of it.
Okay, we'll see. What do you think, which are the digital advertiser solutions that will how do you manage in your company the artificial intelligence in your company, and what plans does Teads have for in this terms of artificial intelligence?
So we're investing quite a lot in artificial intelligence, and I think because what artificial intelligence is really is around machine learning. So where can you use that? So we can use it from a creative perspective, and we talked a little bit about that before. We can also use it from an optimization perspective. So ultimately, as a brand, I make content because I want people to see it. And therefore, making sure that we are serving the ads to the people who tend to watch more of the total advertising means that it becomes much more effective and efficient for the advertiser. Because if I know that you only ever watch 2 seconds of an ad, why would I serve you a 15-second or a 30-second ad? But then I would serve you a 1 or 2 second display ad that is much quicker, and find a way to dynamically engage you in that. So I think there's a lot of work in terms of the behind the scenes stuff, which is not very sexy, but actually is massively important to drive the effectiveness and the efficiency of the client buy. And then I think there's some really interesting ways that we're starting to use it from a creative tool as well to move more to a mass one-to-one personalization piece.
So you think these artificial intelligence solutions will revolutionize our landscapes and our advertising work?
So
you think it will see it in the next time or years? Or?
Yeah, and we're seeing it now. We're seeing a lot of it. I'd say, well, you may not be seeing, but there's a lot of it behind the scenes that is around how do you make it more effective for the advertiser to make sure their ads are going to the right people, and they're learning. And what machine learning does is learn better and better. The more you put into it, the more you learn from that. I think so. There's lots of things that you'll see behind the scenes, and I think there's some really interesting places potentially to go in mass personalization. The beauty of that kind of route is the problem with mass personalization has always been creating lots and lots of different content. If you can do that in a way that is done very simply at low cost, but then also very engaging, that becomes super interesting. You know, and people like Mark Pritchard are talking about it a lot, and we're sort of working with people like that in terms of how can we help them in that area.
What do you think about the DMEXCO this year, the DMEXCO 2018? And what new things you are showing this year here in your stand, in this fair?
So if I look at DMEXCO first, I think DMEXCO is an amazing trade show. I mean, you've seen just how busy it is, which is fantastic, and it gets bigger and bigger. And I think from my personal perspective, it's a little bit difficult to comment because I actually, unfortunately, spent most of my time stuck in the amazing Teads unit because loads of people are coming to us, and that's why we're at DMEXCO. We're there to make more and more people, be it on the client side, on the agency side, on the creative side, on the ad tech side, aware of who we are, the full breadth of what we do, and how we can help them to better deliver against their media needs. So I haven't really yet. I'm hoping to get an hour towards the end to have a bit of a walk around. Unfortunately, I really haven't had a chance to look because we've been so busy with people coming here, but it's been, certainly for us, it's been very, very beneficial. And in terms of the things we're showcasing, I mean, Teads is a business that is growing very, very quickly. We are calling ourselves the global media platform that delivers fantastic quality video and display media solutions. So we're delivering some really dynamic display solutions too, and that's really been a big growth part of our business. And traditionally, I've not been a big fan of display as a marketeer because I find it unengaging, unimpactful. But I think some of the solutions that we're able to bring now that really leverage the usage of the phone. So if I just show you this example for the moment, where you're reading through, and as you're scrolling down, using the fact that you're scrolling down, you get the Guinness glass starts to fill and open. Oh, that's, you know, and you're attracting and engaging attention. And this very simple tool is, you know, people are spending 5, 6, 7 seconds with it. So it's really tied in to link to how that works. So a lot of stuff we're doing in the display. And then ultimately we've added a new product which is called True Visits. And what that is about is, as we think about, we're operating from the top of the funnel and brand awareness with our video content into display and finally into conversion. This product basically works on a guaranteed where you only pay for every incremental visit to your website. So one of the problems I've got is, as an advertiser, I advertise, but a lot of the people I advertise to have already visited my website. And the way that this works is you only pay for really true incremental visitors. So some really interesting stuff going on from that perspective in the world of video and display. The second thing, talking a little bit about some of the other interesting technologies like augmented reality, for example, is we have a really new, interesting product that we are doing. So again, if I can just show you for a second. So you come through and you come to our advertising unit, which is in here. And if you then press on the button, you can see the glasses are coming onto you automatically. Now that is, again, some of the new uses of technology that we're bringing into the market. So this is obviously built on the kind of technology that in the past has been used for social media, like Snapchat, but taking that into an advertising context for the first time. So you think about Ray-Ban, but you could also think about a lot of cosmetic products, so lipsticks, and you can see how that way, or how does this foundation look on me, etc. So again, Teads is known for reinventing advertising, be it into video, be it in dynamic display, and now bringing things like augmented reality into. So lots of really, really interesting stuff. You know, as I said, we're a business that's growing very, very quickly. because we're doing really good stuff, working with some of the top brands across all the top categories to really help them better deliver their media objectives. And we would love to work with more and more clients. If they would like to contact us, then please feel free to do so.
Okay, thanks. I think this is the way to surprise the people, not to surprise the customer with this kind of new things. People like to see new things and always the same. So I think it's a good way. Okay, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.
And also wish you the best for this fair. It's now our last day. I hope you have energy to finish it very well, and a lot of luck.
A pleasure.